So first of all, what is the main focus of this session? Well, it is about understanding shorebird population changes in this flyway. Today, we have four other speakers, as well as myself, to give a nice coverage of the East Asian part of this flyway. First, Nga Yi Rai will be talking about her work on waterbird abundance changes along the Chinese coast. Next, Dali Lin from the Endemic Species Research Institute in Taiwan will cover the analysis of migratory waterbird data in Taiwan. Third, Toshifumi Moriya from the Japan Bird Research Association will be talking about recent shorebird declines in Japan. And finally, Xiaodan Wan from Fudan University will tell us what is happening to shorebird species in the Yellow Sea. Okay, so before moving on to these four exciting talks, let me briefly talk about the reason we are focusing on shorebird indicators in this session. So more specifically, what indicators are, why we think now is the right timing to develop these indicators, and what challenges there are when trying to develop such indicators. So first of all, what are bird population indicators? So this figure is perhaps one of the best known bird population indicators. It was developed in the UK and shows how British farmland birds, especially habitat specialists, shown in yellow here, have been declining rapidly since the 1980s. So these indicators are developed using bird count records based on nationwide monitoring schemes. And as you can see, can clearly summarize the status and trends of bird populations. I will not go into the technical details of how to develop such indicators, but in short, some sort of statistical models, such as generalized linear models, are applied to bird count data at each site each year to develop species level population indices. Then these species level population indices across species in a particular group, such as farmland specialists, are combined to develop community level population indicators. So now the question is whether we can or whether we should develop such bird population indicators for shorebirds in the EAAF. So from here, I'd like to highlight both opportunities and challenges for developing such indicators for shorebirds in this flyway. So first, I'll briefly touch on opportunities, that is, reasons why I think we can and we should develop the EAAF shorebird indicators. The first opportunity is the urgent need for such indicators. As we all know, many of the shorebird species in this flyway have been experiencing severe declines during the past 30 years. And we obviously need to keep monitoring the status and the trends of shorebird populations. At the same time, the past decade has seen the emergence of some serious and successful conservation efforts, including the Yellow Sea being listed as a World Heritage Site, or conservation breeding of spoonbill sandpipers. These are obviously very promising movements, and we now need to start monitoring the effectiveness of these conservation measures at species population level. The second opportunity is the availability of shorebird monitoring data. To develop bird population indicators, we need count data that have been collected over years. The lack of such monitoring data is a critical impediment to the development of indicators in many parts of the world, but luckily, we have relevant data for shorebirds and in many parts of this flyway. The four speakers in this session will talk about how they have been using those data in different parts of the flyway. And as you know, some of those data have already been modeled to develop population indicators in Australia, New Zealand, and Japan. A third opportunity is recent advances in methodological approaches. Now, a number of species population indicators are being developed, such as the Living Plant Index covering the entire world, European bird indicators for the whole of Europe, and some other country-level indicators like the Threatened Bird Index in Australia. So this means that the number of useful methodological approaches have already been well established and can easily be implemented when developing shorebird indicators in the East Asian Australasian Flyway. It seems that there are only positive reasons for developing shorebird indicators in this flyway. But if we start thinking about how to actually implement this, we see that there are actually multiple challenges that we need to overcome. First, fortunately, we have a number of shorebird monitoring schemes in the flyway, but there are some fundamental differences among schemes. For example, some schemes are based on multiple counts per season, while others do a single snapshot survey every year. I'm sure the other speakers will go into the detail of each survey, but there must be many other differences in survey details, which we will need to take into account when using all the data together. Second, and this is also related to the first challenge of differences in monitoring schemes, but with these indicators, we are trying to cover the whole flyway. You might remember that a number of similar bird population indicators have already been developed around the world, but they mostly focus on a single season, most typically the breeding season, so it's relatively straightforward. But here we are trying to understand the population status of these tremendously mobile species using data for multiple seasons from multiple locations along the flyway. So I think developing flyway level indicators can be a big and novel challenge for us to overcome. The third challenge is the need for long-term commitment. Obviously, this shouldn't be a short-term project. Here we are talking about something that could last for tens of years to come. And for this, we will need a cross-national system for collecting and managing data, doing analysis, and disseminating outcomes. Just as an example, the European bird indicators are being developed by the European Bird Census Council, which is an independent organization with a full governance system and with national delegates from over 40 countries. Establishing something like the EBCC might be too ambitious. So let's take a look at the Australian Threatened Bird Index. This index is technically developed by one postdoc, I think, but the collection and management of data and dissemination involve so many other people in the threatened species recovery hub. So in conclusion, there are various reasons why I believe we should develop shorebird population indicators in the EAAF. But at the same time, there are multiple challenges, both technical and non-technical, that we need to overcome. And just because I have some quantitative background, I think we can somehow solve these technical issues and develop such indicators. But perhaps a more fundamental issue is the need for long-term commitment. So for the rest of the session, it would be great if from the following 4 presentations, we can first understand each case study from different parts of the flyway, then discuss possibilities for turning this into a real action. Thank you very much for listening. And I think there are still 3 minutes left for my time. So if anyone has any questions, any suggestions, please do let me know now. Thank you.